Hello friends, it's good to see you. This is my May wrap up. I have 9 books this month that I didn't vlog. It's more than I've had this entire year in any respective month. So we're gonna talk about those. But first, I'm gonna do a little intro. Ding! Then I'm gonna show you my stats for the month if you care, if you wanna peruse, if anything here interests you. I do a little bit of a deep dive in my quarterly updates, which will be coming a month from now. And then we will get into all of the books that I've already told you about, and I'll just remind you of my ratings, and then the 9 freaking books that I need to give a little review for. And a lot of them I don't have physical copies of, so this is a little bit sparse. But let's begin. This little stack is books that I already own and I read and I liked, and therefore I will continue to own. She's Always Hungry by Eliza Clark, I gave 4 stars. Best Offer Wins by Marissa Kashino, I gave 5 stars. Lesser Known Monsters of the 21st Century by Kim Fu, I also gave 5 stars. 9 Goblins by T. Kingfisher got 4 stars. So that's that stack. And then the next one is books that I own and I will not own a year from now. These will be unhauled because I didn't love them enough to keep them forever. The Library After Dark by Andy Pliego, I gave 3 stars. Was it a 3? Was it a 3.5? It was a 3.5. My apologies. Jonathan Abernathy, You Are Kind by Molly McGee, I gave 3 stars. I wanted to give this 5 stars, and I want to keep this because the cover is beautiful. So is this one. It's like one of my favorite shades of green, but I do not need them. A Most Agreeable Murder by Julia Seals, I gave somewhere in the 3s. It looks like I couldn't decide if it was a 3 or a 3.5. I'm sure I said in the vlog what it was. I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca McKay, I gave it 2. And Kill Creatures, sadly in the same vlog, by Rory Power, I also gave it 2. Next is library books. Ones that I will now be looking out for at the bookstore to purchase for myself because I read them and really enjoyed them, and I don't want to give them back to the library. Fundamentally by Nuseba Eunice, I gave 5 stars. Margot's Got Money Troubles by Rufy Thorpe, I gave a 4.25. And The 2000s Made Me Gay, Essays on Pop Culture by Grace Perry, I also gave a 4.25, 4.5. I also vlogged reading the Unselected Journals of Emma Lyon Book 1, which I gave a 3, and the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon Book 2, which I gave 4 stars. In general, a pretty freaking good reading month from what you've already seen. I had an average rating of 3.7, I think, which I'm not mad at. Now onto the 9 books that I have yet to tell you about, in a vlog capacity at least, because some of these have live shows, some of them have videos for members. But let's begin with one that you haven't heard about anywhere. There's no vlog pop-up. Nobody knows anything about my thoughts on this, but this is a book that I pulled out of my members TBR jar for the month. It's called The Swimmers by Julie Otsuka. This was really stylistically interesting because it kicked off being told from like the collective we, as if we are all of the swimmers at this pool, and what we feel and the meditation that we experience, or the love of the water. And it goes through multiple people, but still from we. And it's like, this guy, is a former Olympic swimmer, and this woman just got out of surgery, and so she's here because the water is low impact on her body. There's the fast lane and the slow lane, and this is the etiquette that we all know is important to us, and this is our own little hub and our own little bubble. And we don't really know each other, but we all collectively enjoy this experience, and it's really important to us. And then it transitions into more of a second person perspective, almost as if the book remembers that there's a main character to the story. And I just thought that was so interesting because the book is about memory. It's about cognitive function declining when one specific person can no longer do this daily activity. All of the people at this pool can no longer attend for a specific reason. And rather than going into how it affects all of them, there's a little bit where it's like, this person went here and this person went here, and they tested out this pool and it wasn't as good as their home pool and all of this stuff. But then it completely goes away from sports, which I'm glad somebody mentioned to me. I had this in the back of my mind or in the front of my mind, because I mentioned it obviously in a TBR, that I was thinking about reading it for my sports vlog. And I'm glad somebody mentioned this isn't really a sports book, because it feels like it is. But I would say like the second half is very not about that at all. It's just about this one woman and everything that she's been through in her life and her relationship with people. And it was just a really interesting time. It did feel a little disconnected like I could only give this a 4. I wanted to give it a 5 so bad, but because I loved the first half and liked the second half, I couldn't help but feel like I wanted to be back in the pool, or I wanted to be with all of these people. But the book has such intent with all of the themes that it's covering with this woman, her childhood in this Japanese American incarceration camp, and trauma and sorrow, but also love and light. It was good. It was very good. This next one I did vlog for the besties. This was their video of the month where I was reading my 100th book of the year, and I selected this one for reasons. It's called Teenage Girls Can Be Demons by Hailey Piper, and it's a collection of, you know, bizarre and scary things that teenage girls participate in or happen to them. It's almost all like creaturous. I gave it a 3.75 at the end of the day. Most of them were in the 3s, but this one, Hopscotch for Keeps, got a 5. And it was about this entity who was taking children and what like the community of children and their parents and like how they reacted, I guess. And then this one was also a 5 at the end. Benny Rose, the Cannibal King. I guess this has been published outside of this collection, but was included in the bind up, and I think necessarily so. It was Hailey Piper's best writing that I have experienced, and just had like a classic kind of 90s slasher feel. Felt really nostalgic. It takes place on Halloween. It starts off with a prank. Like, it's worth it to pick up this collection just for that one. Next, I did do live shows for both of these books. This is The Caretaker by Marcus Klewer and The Ending Writes Itself by Evelyn Clark, which is a combination of authors V.E. Schwab and Kat Clark. And I gave both of these a 2. So if you want to check out my full like spoilery thoughts on either of these, one exists on my channel, one on Gabby's channel for our respective mystery, thriller, horror book clubs. The Caretaker is hard to describe because the synopsis doesn't give all of the information, and so I don't want to give all of the information, but there also is something that I feel like people could say is spoilery of me to say, but I don't think it is, because I think it's important for people to go into this knowing that it is ambiguous. Like, you don't get a lot of answers, and that's not just the ending, but like the entire book. The entire book you are lost, and it's not really a satisfying ending. And I don't think that's meant to be a surprise. I think it's meant to be just kind of vague the entire time. And I also felt that way about We Used to Live Here in a certain sense, but I just loved everything about that. And this one I really struggled through. There's a woman who is desperate for any type of work, and so she accepts a job that seems a little bit odd. Taking care of this man in the house is the initial pitch that she goes into interview for. And there are these set of like rituals that she needs to complete to keep, I don't know, herself, everyone, the house safe. It is very much a big metaphor for depression. It's a very heavy read, and there's nothing wrong with the book. It's just I didn't necessarily want the book to go in the direction that it did. When there's all of these different things to be accomplished, I wanted it to feel more empowering, I guess. And it was just like sad thing after sad thing. Definitely gave the vibe that the author was looking to exude with this story. And I'm sure lots of people will feel connected to it and feel represented by it. I was just feeling really beat down by the book, and once I realized it wasn't going to give answers and wasn't giving me answers on purpose, I was just not as invested as I wanted to be. Like, I wanted to have so much fun with this and come up with all of these fun theories, and there's like whole Reddits dedicated to people like deep diving into the meanings of all of these things. And I just thought it was a fine read. It took me quite a while to finish it. It also took me a really long time to finish The Ending Writes Itself. If you're on Fable, you might have noticed like 4 different days that I was popping in and checking in and updating my chapters. And usually there's just like one day that I'm dedicated to updating all day. It just took me so long to get through this. The chapters were so incredibly long, and we were always following storylines and people that felt like it was taking me out of the action, and again doing it on purpose to like break the tension for a second, but then it just dragged on and on and on. So this story is about 6 authors who get invited to this private island. There's an author who has died. He's like this incredible author, and he's written all of these mystery books that these authors are in love with. They all write a different genre themselves. Like, one is a YA author, one is a romance author, we have a sci-fi, horror, etc. And they all have this adoration for this man, and they get to the island, find out that he's died, and that they're going to get the opportunity to finish the final book in the series that he has been writing that they've all loved. Instead of actually writing for these 72 hours, they're just like drinking a lot, chatting a lot, considering there's a couple $1 million on the table. Some things just felt a little silly. I think that this is very much for the author's already existing audience who isn't like burnt out in the thriller mystery genre like some of us are, and we're looking for something like fresh and exciting. This is not that. This is, I think, a good introduction to a mystery book, and maybe somebody could find elements of this surprising. I don't think anything was particularly well crafted, even though the writing was good. It's always interesting reading a book about writers. I love that. That's why I picked this to begin with. And especially reading from authors who've had such lengthy careers. Like, they obviously wanted to put so much of their experience in here and what publishing looks like from the back end, and give information and like kind of air their frustrations, and also just put the love of writing on the page and how passionate and perseverant authors have to be to succeed, and how much luck is also involved, and how many trials people have to go through to get into publishing. But the actual story and the mystery was very simple. There was no shocking moments except for certain reveals with characters that didn't actually matter to the overall plot. There's nothing wrong with this objectively. It's very hand-holdy. It's like everyone is going to have the same thoughts about every character by the end of the book. It's written in a way that's like, okay, here's this character. You're gonna find them annoying, but here's their backstory. And now you're gonna feel like you wanna support them. Here's this character. You're gonna hope they die by the end. Here's this character. You're gonna hope they live by the end. I just wasn't the audience for it, and that's fine. And I'm interested to see if the people who picked this up because they've been reading V.E. Schwab and loving her for 15 years or however long she's been publishing, if they are going to now get really into mystery thriller books and be shocked and surprised by like what the genre has to offer. Next, I have 3 different books that I read as arcs. I actually am using NetGalley these days. I'm requesting books, I'm getting approved for books, and then I can tell you about them. Actually, one of these came from Libro as an ALC. So let's talk about that one. That was a House of Margins. So this one I got an audiobook of. Narrators, fantastic. And there's sometimes like little, not sound effects, but vocal effects, like whispering and stuff that made it this fantastic experience. I ended up giving it a 4. I picked this up because it's by an author who I read a short story from in one of my favorite collections, Africa Risen. It's a spirit realm based horror book. There's this writing residency that invites 5 young African writers to come, and whoever wins it will have a cash prize. Anaya is the main focus. She's originally from Botswana, and we're following her journey throughout the program, but through the eyes mostly of other people. She actually ends up going missing from the program, and we're following her sister, who is determined to put together all of these clues to figure out where she went. And there's this other woman who was at the program, and she is doing a true crime podcast series of episodes on this disappearance. And you can tell right off the bat, because she uses like a nickname for Anaya that she never would have liked, that they weren't close. But she is putting it out there as if we were friends in this program. I always wanted to support her. I wanted the best for everyone. And I'm just doing this to like put all the information out there because I want to do the right thing. When in reality, this woman is clearly exploiting this situation for her own gain. And so Renoa, her sister, clearly notices that, but also she's getting access to the episodes in like a magical way before they're out. And in fact, when she's getting these little clips and things like sent to her, she can hear Anaya's voice. And there's certain recordings that seem like they never could have been taken. So clearly to her, Anaya is like trying to connect with her in a supernatural way and give her all of the evidence that she needs to connect all of the dots. I gave this 4 stars. I thought the vibe was really good. The writing was good. The narration was good. It's talking about a lot of themes all at the same time. It's bringing in like the impact of colonization, and then individual independent like traumas, and like I said, exploitation, and like who gets to tell what story and who gets different opportunities. I really enjoyed it and would recommend. So that's exciting for an arc. And then I also would recommend House of Now and Then if you like the type types of things that I like. This was on my TBR without a doubt this year, and I gave it 4 stars. It's that type of book that I've been talking about multiple times this year, where there's a person who is stuck in some type of time loop or experiencing a different version of reality, and it's just making them confront things that they have done. And this is a very like straightforward version of that story as far as plot. And I've said so many times that I don't need to be surprised by this type of story. I just want to follow someone on a journey, because we often get a similar type of main character in these stories, and this one is no different, where he is just kind of going on about his life without making really strong decisions. Like, other people are constantly impacting what he does and who he is, and he doesn't really have a strong sense of self. And the moment he has to confront all of that is when he decides to go on this little vacation, Cape Cod. The vibes are stunning. And when he gets to this vacation house, he walks in and an ex-partner is there, an ex-teacher is there, and a family member is there. And at first, obviously, he's like, what are you guys all doing here? Is this some kind of prank? Like, I'm trying to escape life. Like, why are you here? What are you doing? And slowly realizes that these people are from the past and all different points in his past. So one of them is like this person from a year ago, this person from 6 years ago, and it's clearly meant for him to have to confront like conversations he didn't want to have, or just an unfinished business of it all. There's also this guy though that shows up at the house who he doesn't know, and he is like fixing up the house, and occasionally he'll show up and be like, I have to paint the walls today. Like, this is my family cottage. And he thinks he's cute, of course. And so they have a little romance, but also this only exists within the house. So when he leaves and he goes into town and he makes friends and stuff, they don't know what's happening in the house, and the people in the house can't leave and don't know anything about the real world. And so it's like these two existences happening at the same time. And one of the people that he encounters that he's making friends with is the guy in the house, but he clearly looks like 10 years older. So he's trying to figure out everything that's happening, but it also is one of those stories that he's just like accepting it. He's like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm gonna ignore all these people. I'm just gonna try to live my life. There's a little romance. There's a lot of having to think about your past. There's representation for the entire alphabet of LGBT, and it's a little found family, but also he has this core friend group from real life too. So it's just warm, it doesn't get too heavy, but it's important for him to go on this journey, but it's also not like fun and super lighthearted. It's just a good time. So thank you so much to the publisher for that one. I also listened to the audiobook. I wouldn't say it was anything special, but it was fine. And then an audiobook I actively did not enjoy, unfortunately, is The Last Page. This I gave a 3, which is the same rating I gave this author in the past. And I just thought I wanted to pick this one up to see if I could love this author. And I still just think she's a 3-star romance author for me. The plot is there are 2 people who are vying to own this bookstore, to run this bookstore. One of them is a longtime manager of the store, and one of them is a family member of the owner who just passed. And so they're getting to connect in their grief. There's this person who meant a lot to them and promised both of them the bookstore, essentially. And it's a journey of them personally, because they each have something to learn from running the bookstore and meeting the other person. So Ella has been running the bookstore, wants to have this responsibility, feels like it's her right to have it, and she feels very protective over her employees. There's definitely this contention between these two, and I would say the levity is brought from all of the side characters. All of her co-workers are very quirky, and that's a super fun dynamic of the book. But she's not very business minded. She just wants to support everyone. She wants to create this perfect environment and make sure all the coworkers are happy. But she also gives away a lot of stuff, and she's a people pleaser. And so when this guy, Henry, I think his name was Henry, he comes into the picture, and I didn't like the audiobook narration for him. He just felt a little like too cold and old, honestly. And I don't know, I just didn't really love Ella's narrator either. I think I would like her more in an environment of like fantasy, magical stuff, just something about her delivery. And he comes from like a corporate background. He's very successful. He's very decisive. He's ready to cut anyone. He's ready to change up the entire bookstore environment. And so like she needs to learn to take things more seriously, kind of, and he needs to learn to be more flexible. The concept is really good, this like kind of enemies to lovers situation, but I was not having fun especially in the first half. Like it was just not fun to read this dynamic. I don't think I ever fully got on board for him, and I don't know that I really understand their chemistry, but I thought it was a fine book. I think people will enjoy following their romance, and it got steamy, but also I really hated sex scenes, and there was a pet name involved, and I get the ick really easily in romance, so like that's not a deterrent for anyone. And then I read 2 more books. One is A Long and Speaking Silence by Nevo. This is the 7th book in the Singing Hills cycle. I'll read it every single year. I just could not bring myself to buy the copy this year. I got the audiobook instead because it was like $15 as opposed to $35. And when a book is only like 120 pages, it's like literally every time I'm flipping the page, that's a quarter, another quarter. And suddenly it's been $1. I want to appreciate people's art so much, but oh my gosh, the price of a 100-page hardcover these days and a 500-page hardcover is not that different. And it's so hard to justify these little novellas when they're not coming out in paperback. I felt the same about 9 Goblins when I bought 9 Goblins. Me and my mom were at the bookstore and we were like, should we buy this for $35? I know I'll buy it eventually, but maybe when it's a little bit on sale. I did end up giving it 4 stars, which I feel like I give most books in the series. And this one, like we're always focused on Chi. Chi is a cleric who is writing down stories. And so in every book, we go to like a different location and they're interviewing people, and a bulk of the book often is a specific story that someone is telling, and we're in this world. But there are some books in the series that feel more like Chi's story, and we're actually learning not about them necessarily, but what they are doing in the moment and how they're getting places and who they're talking to. And this one very much felt like that. And I just loved how it was about the love of storytelling, and how Chi, even in kind of a more exhausting or monotonous experience, still loves doing this. And I just really needed to see that genuine passion in this book, and I didn't even know that I needed that. After listening to all these stories and writing all of them down, there's this moment where they just have to write down all of these connections between characters. They're tasked with going and jotting down a family tree, and it takes a lot of time, and it's not necessarily the most fun, but it's so important for this community to be remembered. And this community feels very strongly that they don't want their stories all written down because they're not ready to be considered history. There's this land dispute going on, and what those characters were saying was really powerful. And then there was this really young character who was telling the story, and even though she had heard it so many times, hearing it from a different voice, seeing how it was interpreted and translated and given back through this like innocent child's view just gave Chi a different kind of outlook. And I really like this one. Is it 5? You know what was a 5-star though? The Geomagician. This, I was surprised because I feel like it fits with a lot of the things that I love, like Emily Wilde and Ornithologist Field Guide to Love, and whatever that other book is that I keep wanting to call Temple something. The name, whatever it is not accurate to the book, so I think we need to rename it collectively. Empire. But then it was selected, it was voted on by my channel members to have it as our book club, our seasonal book club read. And I got to the live show and I was like, let's all gush about this book. Most people seem to give it like a 3-star, so I can't recommend it as broadly as I thought I would be able to, but it was my perfect book. It definitely fits in that group of books, and we're following a character that not everyone is going to love. And also I think the pitch of this needs to be really specific, because if I just call this a fantasy book about relic magic and about this baby pterodactyl, I feel like it could not fully encompass what it is. So things that I think it's important that you know going into it. It's not like a dinosaur story at all. It's not a romance, although it, you know, kind of feels like a romance while you're reading it. And it is very much not just like about or thematically like representative. It is a story of science versus religion. Like that is the bulk of the story, is this woman named Mary who you probably won't like, and her going on this journey of wanting in history. It's based on the real woman, Mary Anning. She is a fantastic paleontologist, but in this time in the 1820s, she is not being obviously recognized for her talents, for her contributions to the world. And she wants to be a part of this geomagician society. And she has 2 male friends, I'll call them friends, throughout the story who she thinks can get her into the society. And they also give her the idea that they want her there and they're going to bring her into it. But those two men have very different interests and also different perspectives on the magic, because there is this big book that tells everyone how the magic started, how the world started, and how the magic exists. And throughout the story, you learn that it's not exactly as it seems, and that maybe the stories that they're getting and the impact that religion has on everyone and every facet of life in this story isn't always the best, or might not be accurate, because it says one thing about this relic magic. Everyone can have these relics and everyone can exude magic from their bodies at kind of a slow pace, and you can use it for little things, but there is the ability to have more magic, and there's different entities throughout the story, like witches, who have a different understanding of power, and you learn more things about that throughout the story. And there's people who are like, this pterodactyl who Mary finds, she finds a pterodactyl egg and it hatches, and people are saying, well, this is because of this, like the book, there's something in it that we can say is the reason that this is happening, and we can explain it this way. And another person is like, no, this is science, like this is happening because of this. And obviously anybody coming at the society who so strongly believes in one specific thing could be ostracized, or could be held up as like the new prophet or whatever, depending on who they want to believe, and if they want to go in the religion aspect or the science aspect, and everything feels safe and comfortable. So why would they invite a woman into the society to begin with? But she is pushing her way in, and to the detriment of all the other women around her, because she sees herself as working so hard and having all these obstacles in front of her, but she is the one who should get this opportunity. And that's not always a super fun journey, I guess, for people to read, but I thought it was great. I thought it was representative of a specific type of woman, and then we see an arc with that character. And this is the first book in a duology, so I'm very interested to see. I'm continuing in a series, you guys. This is very exciting to see how she's gonna come to view the world differently and who she's gonna bring with her. I loved seeing all these different characters and the ways that they moved about in the world, and the ways that they were so similar, but also how their motivations differed and what they were willing to do to get what they wanted. I put this on a list at the beginning of the year, one of my most anticipated reads, and I just had this feeling like maybe it was going to disappoint me because it's about pterodactyls, and I was like, oh god, a lot of people probably want like the pterodactyl sidekick and that being a main focus of the book, but I was worried about that because I don't always love like a creaturous or animal kind of sidekick, and it wasn't that in the end, which I think could disappoint some people, but it was the perfect just tone and focus for me. So moving on to the questions that I answer at the end of all of these wrap-ups, was my favorite book of the month. It was The Geomagician. But also, Best Offer Wins really was memorable for me. It was crazy and silly and an over-the-top thriller. Least favorite, I think would have to be Kill Creatures. I just didn't like much about this, but I gave it a 2 because I do recognize I'm just not the audience for it. Most disappointing, surely that has to be The Caretaker, because once again, I picked up a book this year because I loved a book from the author before and just assumed I would love their next thing. When no, that is very rarely the case for me. Most surprising, that's definitely Margot Got Money Troubles, because pitching a book to me as funny, rarely I'm gonna laugh anyway. And also it's about pregnancy and like early motherhood, and she got impregnated by her teacher. Like, why would I like that? And obviously no one actually likes that, but I got much more on board for it than I ever thought that I would. Not her getting impregnated by her teacher, but like the book itself. You know what I mean? Best audiobook, like I said, House of Margins. I feel like that was excellently done, but also Margot Got Many Troubles, I thought exuded the perfect vibe. Author I want to read more from, of course, because I'm going to continue in this series, I'm going to say Jennifer Mandula, I need to read more from, but also I'm very excited to read more from Marissa Cashino, just to see what else she's going to do. The one I would recommend the most, I don't know, like if we had a similar childhood, I feel like maybe you could also feel connected to The 2000s Made Me Gay. This was a really good essay collection. There's some things in it I really didn't like, and I think you could not like, but overall, I think it's a good one. And I'm also going to recommend 9 Goblins if you can get your hands on this one. It's low fantasy, high mischief. That's the pitch. Me and my mom both liked it, but it's not like a life-changing one. It's just a good, if you're in a slump or you need something in between, like this is a fun, lighthearted, silly little goblin story. And I don't even love a goblin story usually. Remember? Sidekick creatures. Favorite character? Oh. Favorite character? Can I opt out of that question? Maybe I'll just say Chi, because Chi is always something that I like reading about. Favorite cover? I kind of told you already and spoiled it, but it's these ones. The Library After Dark, I just think is, actually, I'll put up like proper graphics so you can see all the details. The Library After Dark, I think is beautiful. And Jonathan Abernathy, You Are Kind, is just unique, and I love the cover. I mean, I love the colors. Obviously, I love the cover. Favorite title is the last one. And that's going to be The 2000s Made Me Gay, because I think it's attention grabbing for sure. And that's not actually, she's not actually saying this specific like piece of media made me gay, but these moments let her connect to herself, allowed her to realize things about her sexuality. Maybe I should start doing least favorite title, because like I don't know if fundamentally is what I would have called this book. I also don't think The Caretaker is what I would have called this book. Actually, you know what? I read a lot of really literal titles this month. 9 Goblins is about 9 goblins. Margot's got money troubles. Yeah, she does. The Swimmers. The Geomagician. That's who we're following. And that's it for me today. Please tell me your favorite book of the month down below. I would love to know. And also your average rating of the month. I want to know. Are we on the same page? Are we liking the books that we're reading? I think we are. I feel like we're in a good place. Do you think? I'm just deciding for all of us collectively. We're having a good time. Okay, bye.